people focus too much on the fact that it has to be perfect because they even start. And the whole goal is like to get understood, even if that's not perfect, because the reality is even the native speakers make mistakes. Like Polish speakers, they make mistakes. English speakers, they make mistakes. So why do you think that you learning a foreign language, you have to be perfect, even the native speakers make mistakes? So I think it comes a lot from understanding that and not having that fear of speaking.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Chat with Nomads. Today we have with us Anna Maria from Poland. Hi Anna Maria.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, thanks for taking time out to come on the show. So we met firstly in Zagreb, and you were on my panel of a digital nomad or how to become digital nomad panel, which actually
very good
changed
panel.
Yeah, it was a very good panel. So we spoke a lot about business on that panel, ultimately because of the audience demographics that was there. But hearing your story, I would definitely like to, dive deeper into your background story and of course your business expertise, because you are obviously pretty international in terms of the way you approach things, right? So why don't we start by having you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I'm originally from Poland, but I haven't been living in Poland like 15 years. Basically, I just bought a ticket to Spain for holidays and I never came back. So that's like my expat life started. I lived many years in Barcelona. I lived a year and a half in Lisbon. And since 2018, I become like full-time nomad. And I started traveling, and I got involved with the communities. So professionally, first time when I heard about nomads, I was still working in Barcelona. And then I started to think like what I could do to work remotely, right? And to do that reality also for me. It was like way before Corona, so there were not that many options back then. Either you had to be like IT professional or designer or copywriter. Otherwise, there was really not many options. But like once I had planted that idea in my head, then I was like, looking for options. And first thing, actually, for me, I got the remote job for the company I'm still collaborating with today. And basically, that job was not remote as an idea, but I asked them to work remotely. And so I started working remotely. That was my first remote experience. That was first remote employee. That was a contractor.
You were the first remote employee as well.
It's a contractor contract, because
right.
You can't be like remote in other country where the company is, right? That was like the only legal way. But that was the first experience for them, right? So basically, they needed someone that would speak like very good Spanish, and then they also needed someone with like project management experience, English. And they basically they could find like people, but they couldn't find anybody that would speak like perfect Spanish beside of all those skills that they wanted to have. So that's why they has to be open like to hire remotely. And
got it.
So that's how it started. Then I also started like consulting on site. So my expertise area is communication skills and cross-cultural competence.
Right. I see you do a lot of things professionally, and I definitely like to touch into that. But I also like to look further into your personal side, right? Because you mentioned something very interesting at the start, but you sort of just went over it pretty quickly, which is you left Poland actually relatively young, right? Tell us about young Anna Maria. What is young Anna Maria like? Were you always interested in travel, or was there always a desire to do it, or was it like just you decided to go one time because of maybe some school stuff and you just caught the bug?
No, so actually I was born in a very small village, which is very hard to arrive to. Actually, like the closest airport is in Lithuania, which is another country, and then you cross the border. So I didn't ever travel like abroad until I was like 22. So the time when I went on holidays, that was my first time abroad ever, like first serious trip, and I didn't come back. So the interest, I always had that. But I was born in a big family. I was a student. I didn't really have like financial means to travel. So I didn't travel until I started working. And then like once the opportunity opened, then I was like, that's it. I want to do it. But you know, like when I'm telling that story, so people think you were so brave, but actually I was just ignorant because I didn't know. I didn't really know when I just didn't come back from holidays, you know. So then I didn't have a job. I didn't speak Spanish. I didn't have any savings. I was just 22 and I was in Spain with 400 euros and I didn't know anybody in Spain.
Wait,
and
so two things. One thing first, to sorry to interrupt, and sorry to maybe review your age, right? But when was this? Like you were 22, but this was 20. What year was this?
When? That was 2006. That was
2006. Okay, so
quite a time.
And you went on a holiday and you decided not to come back. I'm pretty sure your parents have something to say about that, right? They must be like, what the hell?
To be honest, I didn't really tell them I wouldn't be back. I just say that I'm going on holidays.
But that was not your intention. Your intention was definitely to come back. Right?
I mean, I didn't buy a ticket back, so, but
Ooh.
I was open to the options that I could come back at some point, like maybe after a month or maybe 2 months. I don't know. You know, I was still a student by then, so it was. I didn't have to be back to work, but I also had to be back, like to start working, right, at some point.
Right. So that back then you were still a student. You went for holiday, but you had to come back for school, right? Or no? Or what's the timeline?
I was supposed to be honest, but then I dropped off the university, so I never finished that one. I started in Poland, and then my new life in Spain started. I had to find the job without speaking any Spanish, and I had to do that fast. So because you know, the necessity is the best teacher. Then I actually learned fluent Spanish in 8 months because I had no choice, right?
Your command of languages is another crazy skill that you have, because I know you don't just speak Spanish, and we definitely want to get to that, on how the hell you learn so many languages in like a short period of time, right? But I'm curious, what triggered you to stay on? And because I mean, be it ignorant or courage, right? It's not an easy decision to make. Like, and you were saying it's almost like your first time really traveling out, right, from the surrounding countries. So what do you think triggered the desire to stay on longer, since it's like your first time?
I think for me it was curiosity, right? Like I was 22, I didn't know any country other than Poland. I was absolutely free, so I wanted to experience like other cultures, see how other countries were. I wanted to learn like other languages. Actually, I thought like, because you know, like I bought a book to read Spanish, and I thought that they had like lots of parties and there was a chapter when about Madrid, and they were saying that the Madrid night starts at Friday and ends at Monday, and I was saying, yeah, that's my place, let's go.
So that was the real reason. I think that was the real reason that got you there.
But being serious, I think like sometimes not knowing all the challenges can help you make the decision, right? Because I was completely unaware about difficulties. Then I was not pondering them, right? I was just thinking about all these nice things and positive and possibilities, but I was not thinking about challenges because I had no idea about challenges. And it was 2006. There was internet, but it was not like everybody had mobile and internet on mobile and was checking everything, right?
Right.
So when I went there, I didn't even, you know, do that much research. Like now it's just available by one click. I didn't know lots of things when I went first to Barcelona. I didn't really know how was really life there.
Right. And wait, something practical that I think a lot of younger listeners might be keen to know is that how do you convince your parents to allow you to drop out of university and just disappear to Spain?
I just didn't, when I went to Spain, I didn't tell anybody I was thinking about dropping off this, despite I was. But I just tell them I'm going on holiday and I will be back, and that's it. And then I just didn't get back and postponed the decision, right? Until it became obvious that I'm not coming back, but I was adult. I was adult anyway.
Okay, so your parents were just like, okay, she knows what she's doing. We're just going to leave her be. And...
No, they still think I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay. I guess that's one way to do it. So was it difficult though to find like a job in Spain like straight away? Because obviously you came in as a tourist visa, right? Like how do you go around?
Yes, tourist visa, and I tried to work in bars and restaurants, but even that was a problem because I couldn't speak Spanish, right? So it was a problem, and indeed, I was a bit crazy. I think people should save like more savings, or maybe have more idea what they're gonna do if they go. I tried to work in restaurant, but it was challenging because I couldn't understand the customers. So I found the solution, and I started to work in a disco bar. There was loud music, so if I couldn't understand them, then I could always say because the music was very loud. And also in the disco, people don't really talk that much like in a daily bar. They just come home and it's like vodka with cola, and that's it. So
okay, that's a good idea.
I managed to work there for like a few months until I learned things, and then I could find another job.
So you picked up Spanish in 8 months to at least of a working level, right? I guess obviously one of the main motivation was obviously because you needed it for work, so it definitely drive you, right? But you also speak what do you speak? You also speak Italian, Portuguese, and Russian?
Russian a little bit. I mean, I'm Polish, so of course I speak Polish.
All right.
I can also speak Catalan. I'm not super fluent, but yes. And yeah, Russian very basic, and Italian and Portuguese, yeah.
And what's the secret sauce to be able to pick up so many languages? Because for me, of course, the older we are, I definitely agree that the harder it is to pick up languages. But for example, I do have a bit of Spanish background, but when I try to learn French while having like a half-ass Spanish background, it's way difficult because I'm like trying to remember the words in different languages, especially when I'm not fluent in it. It's kind of bad. But how do you pick up like multiple languages? In like quite a short period of time?
I don't really think that it becomes harder with age, because actually Spanish was my first foreign language. I didn't speak English by then when I moved to Spain. I didn't speak anything but Polish, because we were also not really trained in a public education to speak English. So I learned English working, when I found the job other than in a disco, then I had to learn English with clients. But so basically in Spain, it was necessity, right? Like I had to survive. Also, people in Spain, they doesn't really talk that much English. So if you want to live there and you want to meet local people and you want to have a good life, then you have to learn. Then I learned Italian. I never lived in Italy, but I traveled several times. It was just out of interest. I try to stay as much as possible, but I also joined like a group of Italians to practice Italian. And there was literally like, even when I lived in Barcelona, there was like aperitivos going on, for instance. They were like always Italians. They were open to everybody, but nobody would ever come but Italians. That was for free. There was food, there were drinks, there was lots of friendly people.
I mean, obviously, right? Like if they're going to speak Italian, I'm not going to go because I don't understand shit.
Right. So I try to learn like some very basic, like from the book, but really, really basic. You don't have to know that much as you think, like to have a basic conversation. And then you can start and then it moves fast. So yes, there is this, I would say probably there are like few months, then you feel it's an effort or it's uncomfortable because you don't really getting and you are not following the conversation of people. But at the same time, if you insist staying there, then you move really fast because everybody around you talks that language. So I like intentionally joined the group when they talk in their native language, and there was nobody else. I was literally in groups when there was like a group of Italians and me and nobody else. So they would just like talk all Italian all the time. And that's like much faster progress than if you do like language exchange, right?
True. And it sounds to me like you have never taken like official formal courses. You're basically like self-study and then just go and try and practice it. Do you use other like apps like Duolingo or something like that?
No, like actually I abandoned almost all language courses that I ever started because they are too slow and they focus too much on grammar. So it's great to take, to have perfect grammar, but the problem is that if you focus that much on grammar at the very beginning, you lose all the motivation. So I don't think that's the way to go. Kids doesn't learn that way, right? Kids, it's just repeating. Sometimes it's repeating in a wrong way. But then eventually, when they are already speaking, then they learn about grammar and they learn to understand why they speak that way, but not the other way around. And we are teaching adults like completely other way, like first learn grammar and then we'll tell you what to say. But most people never arrive to that point. Like when I was in Spain, lots of people studied like 5-10 years English, they cannot speak English. In Poland, the same, like people studied many years English, and then in the curriculum, they write English only by written. And I cannot understand if people speak. Why? Because they never speak. They just read some grammar and some sentences in his book. So this is not like the real language. Even before it was like, any grammar was created, it was communication between people. So I think like people focus too much on the fact that it has to be perfect because they even start. And the whole goal is like to get understood, even if that's not perfect, because the reality is even the native speakers make mistakes. Like Polish speakers, they make mistakes. English speakers, they make mistakes. Like you often can see like in social media, right? Like how people speak their own native language. So why do you think that you learning a foreign language, you have to be perfect, even the native speakers make mistakes? So I think it comes a lot from understanding that and not having that fear of speaking, and then putting yourself into a situation. For me, it was just having the real life, just in different language, like going to the when there were people. I joined like classes, for instance, when I tried to learn Portuguese. So I joined a Brazilian group. I couldn't find a Portuguese group in Barcelona, so I joined Brazilian groups and I went with them. That was my way to learn, because it's also way more entertaining for me than just reading a book. Or even playing on app.
Yeah, that's very insightful, because I definitely agree with what you're saying. Like, if we just focus on the grammar, that's actually a difficult part of languages. And because you spend so much time on that, you never get enough vocabulary or other conversational learnings in to be able to start what you are saying about of practicing on in real life. Whereas the moment you can start deploying it, I think there's also a better sense of fulfillment, whereby, for example, when I'm in Argentina and I speak to someone in Spanish and I realize that they understand me, that's kind of like an incentive to keep me going, right? Like the small steps to be like, hey, I'm actually making progress because they freaking understand what I'm talking about. Although like it's definitely mixed with like some hand signs and some contextual knowledge of what we are talking about with broken Spanish, but that gives the motivation to study more. And then after that, as you progress on longer distance, and I think the more you use it, you will start to realize, oh, okay, this grammar is actually not correct. I'll just change it in the next time I use it, and then I just keep repeating the behavior.
You realize because you hear people, and that's also the perfect way to how they use that, like how they say things. And when you hear that from others, you remember better than studying, I think, the book. So that's, like Benny Levis, he's actually very known polyglot. He says that you actually should start after half an hour of your first class. Then you go out and talk to people what you just learned. So it's not, nobody does that, right? It's like half an hour, you learn few sentences, you go and say them. You don't wait even until tomorrow.
Wait, so on this point, I think this is something very interesting to talk about, because well, I don't know how good your Italian and whatever is, because I obviously don't speak Italian, but I know you have done presentations in all this on your second, third, fourth languages before, right? And I'm sure you know it's not perfect, right? But you had the courage to just go and do it, right? And a lot of people wouldn't have. Like me, I probably wouldn't, right? So what is there any mindset tips there on like How do you
Yes,
overcome this?
I think that's completely different perspective. So indeed, I'm not perfect, and I perfectly realize that when I'm talking in Italian, it's like my Italian is maybe B2 on a good day. But the thing is like people think that they have to do that perfectly, otherwise others will judge them. But in reality, others are actually often very pleased that you are even trying. Instead of just doing that in English, you are coming there and giving them presentation in Italian. They love that. They don't even judge you. It's imperfect because it's not about you. It's about the people that are listening to you. And the fact is, when you talk in a native language of someone, then you are actually connecting better with that person, because the native language is the language where we have emotion connected. And the language that you learned, they are like perceived on a rational level. So that means that you actually have better chance to convey your message, to sell to someone, or to get connected to person if you speak in their language, even if it's incorrect, than when you speak a perfect English. That's I realize that's the opposite of what most people think. Because it's about emotions, right? Like people, for instance, connect through music despite they don't understand it, because they feel emotions. And when you can speak like someone else's language, and they see that you are really making the effort, you already gained a lot just for trying. The only thing I would just add, which is I think it's important, is setting the right expectations. So when you're gonna do that, you have to say them like, I'm just learning Italian. I've been doing that like for 3 years. I'm not perfect, but I prepared those presentations for you in Italian, right? So I'm already letting them know that there will be a mistakes, and that's important part for you not being criticized, setting the right expectations. And then once you set them that way, so I actually got applauded for doing that in Italian, despite I of course made mistakes. But so it's just that, like, I think people don't even realize how much that gives you the advantage, being able to do that, or even just a part of the presentation, just a few sentences. If you can't do like all, that makes a difference.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Even in day-to-day life, I think when you're traveling and you go to a store and you just say, like in Croatia, you go Dobar dan, like in good day in Croatian, I think the people are just way more happier.
Yes.
And even if you say it
Try
wrongly,
goes
they're just
a long way, a really long way. So I think if people focused on actually others instead of being about themselves, then they wouldn't think that much, oh, I'm not pronouncing that perfectly. Yeah, but you are making someone happy for trying. So what is more
right.
important, right?
Yeah, that's a very good tip. I think it's really to think about it from the perspective of like, just giving it a shot and just believing that the other party will be like way more happy with it that you try, rather than just be like, this guy doesn't speak. I mean, like, obviously, like for me, Croatians look at me, they know I'm not freaking local, right? They are not going to expect me to have like perfect Croatian or anything. So I think they are very happy to see me just try as well. I think that's important. Yeah. And I actually wanted to talk a bit more about travel stuff, but we can get to that later, because I wanted to tap on what you just spoke about, giving presentations in different languages and stuff, because your part of your business is in cross-cultural business communications and stuff like that, right? What exactly do you do?
You mean in my consulting? Yeah, so I have like some consulting about communication skills, how to improve them. And then also, so depends on the situation, right? It depends on what exactly the person or the company can struggle with. But usually when they start to work with a very different culture, then there are like some challenges, because the communication styles, the approach to time, and the approach to taking the decision is often very different, right? And
Right.
we are not even aware how different it can be, and we are not aware about the consequences. So usually, like when there are challenges, sometimes I teach like what actually you should be expecting. That's first like thing, and then how to deal with that.
Right. And when you, so this is an obvious area that, well, at least for me, I know that there are differences, but of course, what differences is where the deep study really goes into, right? And how to cope with it. Do you think, was this interest that was triggered by your passion for travel? Do you think that you started going deeper into this space, or was it like vice versa?
Yeah, I think for me it was always like I was always interested about different cultures and different languages. I traveled more than many people did. I always work with foreigners because I actually never work in Poland. So I had to deal with that myself first. So it's like really my working experience has been like 15 years already working with foreigners. That's a lot of time, right? It's not like 2 or 3 years. And then like the lifestyle also brings even more like experiences and more insights the more people you meet or the more people you do business with. So then it's just like I had that interest always, but then like my life experience built on top of that. So at this point, like I guess I just have like much more knowledge from the person that perhaps like live all their life in the same countries, and they usually work with local companies or local partners, because it's just like like experience and then taking insight of that experiences.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that. That if you, so one thing I've always spoken about regarding travel is that when we are back home, right, we reinforce our values that were defined to us kind of because of the external environment we grew up in. I mean, yes, it's definitely affected by the parents and stuff, but the society itself definitely influence some of our thinking, right? And within the same society, you reinforce the same thinking a lot, right? And so everything becomes like, there are certain things that you assume is the norm, that you always think like this is how the world spins, right? And then the moment you go and travel, you realize that that's not true at all. Like there's almost no norms. Anything that you think is the norm is done differently somewhere else around the world, right? And that is what I think travel really helps people to understand each other, because then you start to realize that this school of thinking is not like, there's no right, like it's just the way one society functions against the other way, right? So on that note, how do you think your perception has changed since your very first trip when you were 22? How do you see the world now that really make the difference in, your thinking?
Oh, I think I changed a lot. In fact, like when I'm back to Poland, so people often ask me, so if the Poland changed, during all these years I have been living abroad. I mean, yeah, it changed, but what changed the most is me. I'm just looking in completely different eyes at everything. That's what I'm seeing, at people, at behaviors. I just have, comparison alternatives in my head. I know there are other ways of doing things, because I have seen them. So I think like I'm way more flexible, right? I can have like completely different, analyze the situation from different points of view. I think traveling, especially long term, when you really have to, I would say, not as a tourist, but really like staying longer and trying to understand the culture and the people and the society, collaborate with them, work with them, do something together, like having long-term relationships. I think that really changes you a lot, and that builds your character in so many ways. I just like, it's like the benefits of traveling, I think they are infinite. And then you can take them to business, right? Because then you can, when you learn communication skills, then you can apply to business, but maybe you learn traveling and having friends, right? So first thing that helped me to, like communicate better actually, or even learn English, was just meetups. They were not even formal, just going to meetups and talking a lot with different people and understanding like different accents, or even understanding like communication styles, like how do people do, like some people are direct, some people are indirect, right? So yeah, I think it's just because when we talk about travel, is often like, because it's just something we like to do and it's a pleasant activity. And often it is, but it also brings so much to you on a personal level, I think you are growing as a person a lot if you can like take those experiences and really use them and build on them. I think you grew. I don't think I would be able to be a person I'm today if I wouldn't like leave Poland and wouldn't live abroad, even if I read all the books in the world. I just don't think that's the same. You need to internalize and you need to practice what you learned.
Right. I think the interaction element is the important part, because I think you can read about certain concepts and it doesn't hit you as hard as when you interact with someone who practices a different or even a contrasting concept from what maybe you believe in. And it's amazing because you'll be like, this guy isn't actually that different from me, but he believes in something that might be different from my views of certain things. And that doesn't mean that we cannot coexist together. That doesn't mean that we cannot be friends. You know what I mean? And that's how I think we see like the different perceptions being able to exist on the same plane of view. And still, I think one thing is, I always say that what makes us unique as humans is our differences as well. It's not just that we all share the same stuff. We also have different points of view, and that's what makes us unique, right?
And interesting.
Yeah. So one of the more interesting thing that I was looking at what you do against your lifestyle is that you not only do cross-cultural business consultation, which obviously ties in with travel, you're also looking into digital transformation, which obviously fits into the digital nomad lifestyle of things, right? Or there's some correlation of it. How much does it tie in together for your lifestyle and your business directions? Because I know some of these endeavors you picked up later in the years, in recent years, right? And it seems to me like your lifestyle kind of influence as well the business directions that you go in. Is that true?
I think possibly yes, or at least partially yes. So the fact that I'm able to travel more then gives me better insights, like make me better in a better position to advise others actually how to deal with cultural differences, because that brings like new stimuli and new examples every day. That's for sure. With digital transformation, I think it's the fact about remote work, right? So I was working remotely before COVID even happened. Even I was working remote because I was working with foreign clients on different continents, even like years before, just nobody would call that remote because we would still go to the office, right?
Yep.
But we would go to the office because that was like you were supposed to do that, but the essence of the job was remote already because the clients were on different continents and they wouldn't come to see me. There was not even Zoom by them, so we would just call them on a normal phone or Skype and sometimes just write emails, and that's how we communicated, right? So that's I think that was already remote work. And then what happens is actually I stopped coming to the office for doing that kind of things, right? That was so the revolution for me probably was not that big. It was just like separating that fact that you have to do this, but the job itself, like so that was already like how to develop relationship and keep that with the client that you never see, right, in person. And then of course, yes, so right now, like recently, so yes, I work now for some IT company. So yeah, they work a lot with they enable marketing for pharma. So yeah, we trying to move things with digital transformation. Then COVID happened, so it even accelerated everything in that way. But yeah, so I was working remotely before, so for me it was just like suddenly like other people understood that they have to work remotely too, and they don't have to go for meetings like to different continents because they can do that remotely too. But we were already doing that and trying like to promote that already for the clients, right?
Yeah. Something interesting that came up when you were saying it was that back then you used to do just phone calls, right? That's maybe even without video calling, right? So you don't even see the client. And today, of course, you do. But are there certain ways that you think are good in building relationship with clients remotely? Because you obviously lose the human touch of it, but through a screen, right? And I think this is a hot debate even within the business space today, right? How do you build or maintain relationships with not just clients, maybe even colleagues, right? In a remote sense. What's your gut feel on that based on what you're seeing?
Yeah, so it's still good, if possible, at least to see once a person, like at the beginning, if there is some training or introduction. In fact, like before COVID happened, we would still like go to see once a person. Like for instance, when I started working with my company, I went there twice. Then I never went back again, but I saw them like 2 times in person, at least some of them, not all of them, right? So that's one thing. I still think that if it's possible, these team retreats, they make sense, because seeing someone once or not seeing them ever makes some difference. So right now it might be not possible even that once, but if it is, or at some point I guess it becomes to be possible again, I think it's still worth, okay, that part. Then there is this camera thing. So actually, despite what many people think, most calls are without video. So nowadays we have lots of calls, like every day, different calls, but most of them, they don't have video because people are not ready, they are not prepared, they are working from home. Like most people doesn't really, they don't really want. So it's a thing. But for instance, if it's a new person, it's still best to put on camera. If it's like first time you are talking to a client, that's really, I think, important and recommendable. And then there are those things like depends, because I always work with different clients, but if they are from different culture, it's also good to know a little bit about that culture, right? That's like your very express and minimal, but still relationship building. So if you know something about the country, for instance, if I'm gonna talk with potential clients that's Brazilian, it's good to bring something that I know about Brazil. If I have visited, if I like it there, or maybe something that surprised me, it's good to ask about something or mention something. Because people often, like, when there is like a meeting and people don't know what to say, so then they start, oh, and how is the weather in Rio, like, so so this is not relationship building. That doesn't really bring anything. And nowadays people also started, so how is the COVID situation? This is also not relationship building. It's actually depressing topic. So but it just takes, maybe you can take like 5 minutes if you don't have any information, and just make Google research, like important events in Rio or important events in Brazil, traditions in Brazil, right? And then on the meeting says like, hi, so you are Brazilian, because I have been there and then I saw that things, or I have attended carnival, or I like Brazilian, I don't know, football, whatever, but something that shows that you already have the interest in that country. So
Right.
you spend 5 minutes on that, and try not to make it like that obvious, like the weather and stuff. So right, you can find something like often the good thing is like food. If you don't have any ideas, you can ask about food or talk about food, or traditions, like people love their traditions. You can ask like about their background, like, sometimes I talk with people, they are in Brazil, but actually they have like German name. That's also a good thing, like so how they even ended there, that kind of thing. So it's better like to make the question that you are really interested in. So because people can feel if it's not authentic and you're just trying to make the conversation, I think it makes a difference.
Right.
So if there is something that, for me, for instance, I'm interested about culture anyway, so I don't really like suffer if I have to ask them something about the country. But I think people should ask something they are really interested into. So like if you, I don't know, like the music, you can ask about Brazilian music, like why not? That's perfect small talk conversation. And then also small talks becomes more interesting than just like, okay, so how is the weather and how is the COVID? Those things. And then of course there is like much more, like how do you communicate later? So it's good like to send like follow-up emails, add something like show that interest, especially at the beginning, super important. They are now trying to evaluate if you are trustful. They are probably gonna look you on LinkedIn or somewhere. So you have to also build that online presence, because the trust, if they cannot meet you, then they are gonna evaluate the trust built on what they can find about you online and what you just show them in the meeting. That's what you got right now, right?
Right. And so if you are working with clients from multiple countries, right, internationally, right, how's the time zone situation like for you then?
Yeah, it can be tough. Like with LATAM, it's quite tough.
LATAM is in Latin America, right?
Yes, all the countries in Latin America, they have this.
Right.
So it can be like, like Brazil, I think it's 4 or 5 hours, depends if it's summer or winter. But Mexico or Panama can be even 8 hours of difference. So that makes it a bit tough. but we also don't have like meetings every day, right? So if I have to have the meetings, then I plan like working on that time to align. So for me, it's like afternoon. For them, it's early morning. We have that deal. They know that if they have to call me, it has to be day morning. And
but then again, your location changes, because it feels to me when I spoke to you that that's not actually your biggest consideration when you choose the location, because you obviously chase the summer. I think that was pretty obvious. Like you go for where the warm weather is. So do you just try and adjust your meeting times accordingly?
I actually follow my time zone. So if I move into different time zone, maybe I have to wake up earlier or maybe later if I change the time zone. But I try not to change too much, because then I would need to work like in completely different schedule, right?
Right.
Because it has to be predictable for them when they can reach me.
And how's your travel style like then these days? Like how long do you usually stay in a certain place, or do you do like continents?
Right, I'm still not a slow mat, because I like to join events. So then people do like events in different countries all the time.
Yeah.
And then so I don't think like I stay more than 1 month or 1.5 months in a place. Sometimes I stayed even less than that. So my idea is to stay a little bit longer, but then I have to fit also like the attending events into my itinerary. So.
Right. So let's talk a bit about events, because you're obviously one person that I've seen in quite a bit of the Nomad communities.
If there is event, I'm there.
Yeah, because I've seen you at Nomad Base for sure. I know you were like in Nomad Escape just a few months ago, I think. So
a month.
why so why events? Like, I mean, like, okay, I understand why events, but why that amount of frequency? Like what was the main attraction for you?
So for me, I actually like the big events. Okay, so I wouldn't travel for a small event. I probably wouldn't travel for 30-person meetup somewhere. But the big events within like-minded community, I think it's very, very interesting, both like from personal or professional perspective.
Define big. How big is big?
I mean, in Nomad community, probably 100, it's already big, because we don't have like 1,000 people events. But if it can be 200, better then. Like, for instance, Bansko this year was 300 people, right?
Oh, you're in Bansko as well?
I was in Bansko,
okay. Yeah. You're everywhere, okay. Yeah. And so you're talking about so you basically just like hanging out with the nomadic community because there's a common topic. Let's just call it that way when you discuss.
Event is like the best part of Nomad's life. I don't think why someone wouldn't go.
That's an interesting perspective, especially since I haven't been to many.
You have to try the good ones, yeah.
Wait. Why don't you give a shout out to some of the good ones? Which ones have you been that you think are like,
actually
good?
First for me was the Bansko Nomad Festival. And they even had that one in 2020 when everything was cancelled. They still held it. Like 80 people attended. That was very good, actually. Then this year they had 300 people. That was second edition. And this year probably gonna be more because people like it. Johannes, of course. Unfortunately, I was not on the cruise. I didn't know him back then, but now he's doing Nomad Base. So yes, Nomad Base is also worthy. I was in Cyprus.
Yeah, I saw the videos. I think it looked super fun, actually.
Yes, it is. Yeah, then actually there was not any big one. Like after that, then I went to, that was 1 month later, I went to Madeira for Nomad. That was, I think, 50 people or 55. If there was, yeah, so basically there was not any other bigger one in Europe. There was one that Rosanna organized in Buenos Aires, but that was like really 3 days before December, so I couldn't go to that one.
I know I was actually, because I was in Buenos Aires right before Croatia, and I really did consider staying because, well, Rosanna is like I don't know what she does, but she's like a people's magnet. Like whenever she organizes some shit, there's like a whole ton of people just showing up for
she built the Lisbon community, so yeah.
Yeah.
She already
She's
mentioned.
like definitely like a human connector kind of person, for sure. Yeah, I've been to one of her meetups in Buenos Aires, surprisingly, and that was like a couple of years back. That's how I got to know her. But yeah, she's definitely like a name in the whole community space, right? So it doesn't seem like there's that many events, those and in between the events, what do you do? You travel alone?
Well, so once you travel to an event, then people stay in the event place because they don't move like after the week, right? So that's also a good way to travel to some country that you want to know when there is an event, right? Like, for instance, I have never been to Cyprus before this event. So I planned like to go there and stay there for a month. Then I can explore the Cyprus with people that are still there. That's like much more entertaining, much more funny, and more interesting doing that with people. And they probably then usually the next month there's even someone else, but
Yes.
you can stay as much as you want, but for me actually I usually had to go somewhere else if I wanted to attend something else, or sometimes I also have to do things, right? I have to go to the doctor.
That's the thing, right? Wait, like there has been this talk that community events are fun, right? There's no denying that they are fun, but then sometimes it gets tiring, or I don't know, like at least for me, well, I'm inherently introvert, right? So I need alone time and stuff. I need like time to do my shit, right?
I'm also an introvert. I know it not always look like that, but I am.
Yeah, but the thing with community events is that there's always stuff going on, and then you just want to attend because it's a bit of FOMO as well, that everyone's going to have fun or do stuff. Doesn't it get tiring though, like if you do it for a long period of time?
But I don't really feel forced to attend everything. Like, so if I don't want to go, I don't find something that interesting. Like sometimes people do like dinners every day. And I also prefer like different, like probably bigger groups than the smaller ones. And usually when people are mingling, not just sitting.
Right.
So for me, sometimes like dinners every day are not that interesting. I'm not very much yoga person, so I also don't attend if there are like yoga things. So you can, like choose. And then sometimes, like if there is, I just can travel to some countries that nobody is interested. I went this year to Slovenia and I was there on myself. So if I need like space alone, which I think anyway, not even introvert, but everybody should have sometimes just to process, like, internalize things you learned, like take all those input in, make sense out of that. Then you still make that space for you. Like I just went there because I wanted to know the country. There is no nomad community in Ljubljana or something, but I still stayed there. And then I had my alone time. And then that's it. Like you stay as much as you can. So it's freedom, right? Like how much you want to be in the community.
Yeah. I definitely think like I spoke about this in my last podcast recording as well. That self-awareness is probably like the main thing. Like know yourself on what you want to do or what you don't want to do, and don't feel too pressured about like joining every other thing, because then you're like, oh shit, like I'm so overwhelmed by all this thing, and then you get tired with it, right? So let's conclude with like some quick fire questions. Yeah, quick fire questions. So it's just question and answer. Okay, so what's your favorite travel destination so far, and why?
Oh, just one. Oh God, I don't know. Maybe Brazil. It's because they have live music everywhere, like on every corner. It's free, and people are just happy. Like
Brazil is huge, though. Any particular city?
I was in Rio. I loved it there. I also went there to see, like, the Iguazu on the Iguazu on the Brazilian and Argentinian side. They are like amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Iguazu is amazing. I agree. I have a guide about
fantastic. That's fantastic.
Wait, which one do you like more? Do you like the Brazilian side more or the Argentinian side more?
No, I think Argentinian side is
okay. We are in agreement.
More impressive.
Oh, speaking of which, Krka, so we are in Croatia now for the listeners. Yeah, that looks like a mini Iguazu, doesn't it?
Yes, but very mini.
Yeah,
it was really huge. It was
yeah,
really
that's right.
huge.
But it's like the same. You get to walk, and then like as you walk, there are like waterfalls, like mini waterfalls everywhere. And of course, the main waterfall is the bigger one, which obviously is not as big as Iguazu, but
Praha is
the
definitely the
concept.
most beautiful I have seen in Europe, right? But the thing is, like in those countries that are like tropical countries, then even I would say the trees, so yeah, the colors are even different there.
Right, right. Okay, okay. So Brazil is your answer. What is three most useful thing in your travel bag apart from your laptop and mobile phone? Because those are obviously important. But what are three other useful things?
I think good shoes, probably. Yeah,
Good
comfortable
shoes,
shoes. Yeah.
as in sneakers, like walking shoes.
Yes, because you
Okay.
never know how much you will have to walk. And I mean, like working equipment, but I guess that's obvious. So money, of course, but that's also.
Wait, what?
I'm quite. I'm
Speaking
quite
of
a
working
minimal.
equipment, right? Working equipment, what else do you use? Because I think that's important for remote work, right? Like apart from your laptop, do you have something that you use that you really think helps a lot in
No,
productivity?
because I don't want to have even more things than I already have. I'm trying to be minimalist, but I actually carry two laptops because one is the client laptop, and then I have mine, right?
Dang,
So I
okay.
have like two chargers and two mousses. It's heavy, but I consider that important because that's the client has like this security system that for their specific stuff. So
Right.
I have to use that laptop. Yeah, I could have more things, but then the luggage becomes like more and more heavy.
Okay, okay. But what else could you not live with? Like, for example, like you have to go on a short trip now, what will you take?
I mean, it's just like I'm really minimalist. I hope it's just like clothes and cosmetics and work equipment, and I'm ready.
Huh,
the,
okay,
the,
interesting.
the clothes, I'm prepared like for everything. I don't have many clothes, but I have different stuff. So if I have to be elegant, I'm ready. I have to climb the mountain, I'm ready.
So
If
very
it's
versatile
casual,
clothes.
I'm ready. Yes,
Right, right.
I'm only not ready for winter. That's it. Like you always
Right,
see
right,
that in
because you always say
Croatia.
so. Yes, yes. Okay, okay. Yeah, this question seems to trip up people a lot. Like people seems all my guests have had a bit of hard time answering this question for some reason. Okay.
Yeah, I guess lots of things you have in the luggage, but yeah.
I don't know. I think it's quite obvious for me, but let's see.
Yeah,
What's your yeah, for me it's quite obvious. So what's your single most important travel tip?
travel tip. Cool. That really depends for who, but
For yourself, I guess.
for myself, I think for me it's mostly about people. Yeah, like nowadays I travel when I think there will be like a community of people. That's really huge reason for me. I went to countries where I probably like Bulgaria was really not my priority, right? But I went there twice already. so
And it's because
so
of the people.
it's a fact. Yeah, it's because of Bansko Festival.
Oh,
Like
you mean Bansko? Yeah, okay, okay, okay. Bansko has
I
came
mean,
out a lot in my last three recordings, to be honest. Like we have
yes.
been
I
talking about
mean,
Bansko for various reasons.
on time in the country, I try to see the country as much as my time allows. So yes, in Bulgaria, I have seen a little bit of Bulgaria. I don't just leave after seeing like one nomadic space and that's it. Because it would be just pity not to see anything in Cyprus or Bulgaria just because the event was somewhere and then that was it, which many people also do. But I also have that curiosity since I'm already here. Let's see, right?
So I guess your most important travel tip, and I think I've heard you repeat this a lot in terms of your behavior, is to just go and talk to people.
Yeah, I mean, so right,
Because
like
for
to
you, it
explore.
seems natural. Let's go practice Spanish. Let's go and just talk to people. Let's practice Italian. Let's just go and talk to people.
So you can't really. So it's impossible to understand the culture without understanding a little bit the language. That's the thing. Like it's impossible. because the language is part of the culture. So if you really want to know like why the Spanish are like as they are, you have to learn some Spanish.
Okay, cool. Next question, what's your most important remote work tip?
Remote work tip. Of course, like make sure that internet works. But I would say that for calls, right? That's especially important for calls. You need to have a backup. So if then something breaks, then you can connect. Like right now, we are having this conversation on mobile because the hotel doesn't have a good Wi-Fi. I'm prepared for this.
Okay, that's it. I have to say, because if you are viewing the video, to all the audience that are viewing the video, the reason why my video is so weird that I keep
have
looking
a
up.
lot of data. Yeah, I'm also prepared for that.
I'm like, my screen is dead. So I'm using like an external TV in the Airbnb that's on top of my laptop, which is why my angle is so awkward. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely. I definitely do think that backup is really important. And I think like, especially if you have important data, cloud storage is like super important.
True.
Yeah.
Possibly you should also use VPN if you can. I mean, I'm carrying that already anyway for work, but I think even people that doesn't have to use that for work, it would be recommended to use that just for safety.
Yeah, I use VPN as well. I'm using not VPN. Just a shout out. And what are you using though?
Yeah, I think it's even here.
Wait, your VPN is like a hardware device?
This is my VPN.
Okay, I didn't know. I mean, like, I'm just using a software VPN. I don't know why.
It has like some codes, and then it changes like all the time. So every time it's a different one.
Oh,
impossible to break this.
Yeah, yours is like super duper secure. I guess because your client work really requires like very secure. Okay, cool. All right, thanks Anna Maria for coming on today. Some great discussions that I didn't expect, but I think it was awesome. And wait, one last thing. Where can people find you and your story and your services?
So actually, I'm still working on my website, but like if anybody wants to contact me, then LinkedIn or Facebook, just PM. That's it. LinkedIn or Facebook, and what do they search? It's my name, Anna Maria Kochanska. It's just my name as it is, so it appears already. Okay, I just wanted to hear how you pronounce the last name. That's why I wanted. Oh, Kochanska. Okay, I would have pronounced it Kochanska, which is why I'm like, okay, you might be wrong. Yeah, I think Spanish would do that because it's different pronunciation. Yeah. Okay, but I will drop the links in the show notes, so no one needs to figure out how to spell it. They can just click on the link and you go there. Yeah, all right, thank you so much. It's not the easiest one. Yeah. Thank you, Rax. That was a pleasure.